You're all very welcome to it's our sixth session of a set of 9 on the Club Coach Development Programme. This webinar is titled The Skill of Coaching a Child, and it's been delivered by Gerard O'Connor in association with O'Neill Sportswear. During the session, coaches, you can, at any stage, you can put in a question into your chat box, any questions you want to ask Gerard for the finish of the session, or maybe even during the session. I can ask it to Gerard even during the session when he's going through the presentation if need be. So without any further ado, we're so delighted to have Gerard O'Connor tonight. Gerard, I'm sure you all know Gerard. Gerard is a Tyrone man, a Strabane man, but he's been in Dublin for a long number of years now, and Gerard is Director of Coaching and Games with Dublin GA, and he must be doing a very, very good job the way Dublin's going. So I've known Gerard for a long number of years, and he's just one great man, and as I say, I'm just delighted to have Gerard here tonight. So as I said to you, this is a set of 9 sessions. So as you see now, this is the one tonight. This is our 6th one, the skill of coaching the child. In 2 weeks' time, we will be delivering athletic development for the youth player. Owen McNichol will be delivering that, and that's for the player from 11 or 12 to about 16 or 17. He'll be focusing on. So that's in 2 weeks' time. So you can get registered for that one too in a couple of weeks' time. So, but without any further ado, I'll hand you over to Gerard O'Connor.
Thanks, Tony. Again, thank you very much for giving up your time this evening, coaches. I relish the challenge in preparing to do this. Because it's something that I really enjoy doing, is presenting and doing work with coaches. So it's great, I suppose, that coaching has commenced back again, and I suppose we would all prefer to be in the field or at a game or training, and that's what energizes us all. Well, it definitely energizes me anyway. But I suppose this is a good time to reflect and to use this time to do something maybe different, which is, looking at our coaching and how we can be better at making players better. So throughout the session, maybe if you want to take notes, feel free. And I'll try and have a little bit of interaction, because I know it can be very much one way, these webinars. So my aim would be for you that maybe as a result of listening in or tuning in tonight, that you might do something in your coaching, or even as a parent as a result of listening to this. That would be my aim for the session. So let's get started. I suppose this is the key message for today, whether it's children or adults. They don't really know, or they don't really care what you know until you know you care. And I think I'd like to just share my experiences and what others have researched to show that communication skills are the most important attributes for a coach to possess. Language is the oil that keeps everything going. So let's take a moment maybe and take this phrase that's up here on the screen, and it's a helpful guide to communication, I think. So let's focus on the first part. Say what you mean. For me, that means you've got to be direct and you have to be clear. It's also important to be tactful and to be sensitive too. Then if we look at the second part, mean what you say. So consistency comes to mind here. Speaking one way but acting another way creates mistrust. And any of you who have children will know that they will push the boundaries. And if you don't have boundaries and you don't have rules, then you may have misbehavior. And the final part, let your words and actions match. So there is a big difference between being a coach on a Tuesday or a training night and being a coach on a match day. But who do the players remember? So I would ask you, are you a match day coach or a game day coach? So say what you mean what you say, and let your words and actions match. So tonight, the webinar, I've picked 4 objectives for the session, and maybe the main title of it might have been a little bit misleading, but for me, I suppose the key around coaching is communicating. And it doesn't matter whether you're coaching small children, middle-sized children, our big children, like adults, language is so important in all of those particular areas. So these are the four main objectives that I hope to explore in tonight's session, and I hope that you get something from it. So the first thing I'm going to look at is the power of words. And then I'm going to identify the language that we use now as coaches. And the third objective is how we might use mantras that can help us in our coaching. And I'll explain a little bit about what mantras are. And then the final piece is just explaining how affirmations can be a worthwhile coaching tool. So hopefully there'll be something in it for everybody. So just maybe sit back and relax for a minute or two. I'm going to show you a little video. And I just want you to have a look at this short little video of a coach, not in our sport, but in a coach nevertheless. And tell me, if you were the children in this little clip, how would you feel? And then you can post it in the chat, maybe during it or at the very end. Okay, so we'll give it a go here.
I told you not to swing, you idiot! Get back here, move it! Hey, Stein, get back in here!
And
God
at the end of the
damn it,
game,
you
Yankees
stupid!
2, Bears 2.
Everybody sit down. Come on, sit down. Sit down, Ingleberg. What's the matter with you? Next time I tell you to do something, goddammit, you do it or else you're off this team. And the rest of you, what's the matter with you? All season long, you've been laughed at, crapped on. Now you got a chance to spit it back in their faces, and what do? You're out there like a bunch of dead fish, not listening, bonehead plays, mistakes. I mean, don't you want to beat those bastards?
Okay, so maybe if you have a minute, you might tell me, if you were the children in that clip, how would you feel? So you might just pop that in, and I suppose at the very end, maybe the coach had an aha moment about what he was actually saying to the children. We'll come back maybe to some of those posts that might come into the chat later. But
there's a couple coming in here, Gerard.
yes, yeah.
Disrespected and threatened.
Absolutely, yeah.
Afraid and worthless. Coaching by fear. Fear deflated. It's none of his fault, but all of the kids' fault. Fear. The children would feel weak and powerless. Some great answers here.
Some brilliant answers, yeah. And I think all you had to do was look at the faces of the children. I don't think there was anybody that you would say was happy, was excited, was energized by what the coach was saying. Everything that the coach was saying was negative, was disrespectful, and bordered on abuse in terms of some of the language being used, and also by pushing a player into the dugout. So yes, they're the same feelings maybe that our experiences that maybe we accept or we forgive sometimes, or sometimes even worse, we celebrate. But this kind of behavior on the sideline we shouldn't really tolerate. So for me, the big thing here is that these are children, and for children there are really important that our words have a lasting effect on what we say to them. So a coach's words has a lasting power. A coach's words has a lasting power beyond the game, beyond training. A coach's words can elevate, accelerate, or resonate with players. And likewise, if it was the coach that we've just seen, they can have the same effect in a negative way of players. So if we think about elevate, when you tell a player you think they're terrific, you light a flame that goes beyond the game. So will you tell your player that every time you go to the field? something that will inspire them, that will motivate them, that will build up their self-esteem and their willingness to take risks, as opposed to giving them negative talk. So tell your players, no one is going to criticize them today. That's something that you could say to your players. Accelerate. So when we think about accelerate, we think about making something go faster. So to make them learn faster and to develop a love of the game, that's what you try and do when your words accelerate their learning and you give them a love of the game. And when we think about resonate, we think way beyond the moment, the training, the game. It's not the skills you teach or the game you won. It's the words that you use will be your legacy. And I can't say that enough. Your words will be your legacy. So accelerate, elevate, and resonate with your language. Make it powerful and make it lasting. When we think about the brain, and here's the science for you. We have messages that are being sent to us all the time, and the messages are neurons that are fired off in our brain. So an American neuroscientist called Andrew Newberg, if you want to check him out, said the words literally change the brain. So positive words tend to propel the motivation centers that drive creativity, but negative words have a very different response. They cause a reaction in the magnolia that houses the fear centers. So this results in anxiety, reduction in logic and reasoning, and worse, releases dozens of stress hormones that are destructive to the brain. So can you just visualize those children again, sitting there, hearing the language, those negative words, and how it's been disruptive to their being. So the next time you're coaching a child, you're not training their bodies, you're accelerating their brains. I think Kipling said, or some words to this effect anyway, words are of course the most powerful drug used to mankind. And when we think about our words being a drug, well then we should use them with, or they should be used with a health warning. So too many people simply aren't aware of its power and can easily misuse and often abuse it. And you can see from the coach previously, there was an abuse of language. So players, and this is something that my late friend John Morrison used to say all the time, was players don't remember what you tell them, they remember how you made them feel. So how you make somebody feel is a legacy that you can leave. So a little making some connections here, and I'm not sure, is this a poll, Tony? No, this isn't a poll, no. No, I don't think this.
Slide 8, Gerard was a poll.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So anyway, this is a little brain teaser for you here. So what I'd like you to do is make some of the connections with the figures that are on the screen, and it's in relation to obviously communication and maybe its effect. So here's a little brain teaser. Try and see how you can make any connections with what is on the screen. So you've got 96%, you have 5%, you have 12 years, you have 18 years, and you have 4 years. So think what they might mean in relation to possibly communication and its effect on children, and how it might make the connection between some of the figures that you have here. At 4 years of age, 96% of children have high self-esteem. So when you think of those 4-year-olds running around out there, having a care in the world, they have 96% of children at 4 years of age have high self-esteem. So what happens? By the age of 18, it drops down to 5%. And that's because between the ages of 4 and 12, children hear 100,000 negative comments about them. It might be a passing comment, it might be something that they overheard, or it could be something directly said to them. So, sure, he was no good, his father wasn't much good, he'll be useless too, he's too big, he's too slow. comments like that, all focusing in on the negative stuff. So being a coach of young children comes with a great responsibility. You're working with children during their most rapid periods of development. And this is not just their physical development, but their self-esteem, their motivation, their confidence. These are linked to everything they do and say to a child. So everything that you say has an impact on them for the rest of their lives. So it's important that we are careful about the words that we say. There's a little poll here, and Tony's just hopefully going to launch it for me. So this is the magic ratio of positive to negative. And I suppose there's some conflicting views around this whole area of negative versus positive. But let's have a go at it on the poll and just see how many positives does it take to offset a negative. There's four answers there that you can have. It's either 10 to 1, 7 to 1, 5 to 1, or 4 to 1.
Okay, we have Gerard, 66% saying 10 to 1. We have 18% saying 7 to 1. We have 11% saying 5 to 1, and we have 5% saying 4 to 1. So the highest is 66%, 10 to 1.
10 to 1. Okay, brilliant. Okay, very good. So these are some of the figures. These are some of the published figures around the ratio of positive to negative. And excuse me, this is from an Irish psychologist called Maureen Gaffney, and she's the author of a book, you should check it out, called Flourishing. And she talks about the relationship between positive and negative. And she says from the moment you awake, your brain is like a built-in meter, keeping track of every instant of negative reaction or niggling worry, disappointment, uttering thought. So this accumulation of negativity is balanced by a flow of positivity, and a reassuring thought, a feeling of affection, a hopeful day, a dream, or whatever. And so there's a balance going on all the time between the negative and the positives. So you need 5 times as many positives in order to withstand the pull of negativity. So the effort to undo a negative takes a lot more energy just to bring it back to just being equal. So that's food for thought. And this is just her description of where we are in terms of positive to negative, in terms of the ratio. So it's worth having a little read, maybe if you're interested in something around that. So Maureen Gaffney, and her book was called Flourishing. I conducted a little bit of research myself back in 2018, and I sampled about 180 coaches, just club coaches from all levels and all ages. And these were mainly child and youth coaches that I conducted this research. And as I said, there was a very interesting fact in the 180 coaches that I sampled. 100% of them were active. They were all coaching. And of those 180 coaches, 88% of them had all engaged in some formal coach education. So they may have done the foundation course or a level 1 course or whatever. So they weren't complete novices. They had some experience and they had some formal training. And for me, what was really stark was that if you look at the responses and you see out of 4 of the 6 challenges are the challenges that they needed help with, they all relate to communication. So if you look at 3, communication and feedback. If you look at 4, observation, spot and fix. So being able to observe and give feedback and help, that's communication. Dealing with discipline with your team, that's another form of communication. And using questioning as a form of coaching. So in the 6 of those challenges that coaches need, 4 of them all relate to coaching and communication. I was actually just reading something the other day, actually yesterday, in preparation for this talk tonight, and I came across an article by the German FA Academy on how they're developing their academy coaches, and they've made a strong move towards developing social competence and personal communication rather than tactics. They call it, as a German name, Menschker factor, which translates mean a person of integrity and honor. So they're moving away from the tactics and the skills, as opposed to developing people that can develop people. So I thought that was really interesting. I was reading an article as well by a guy called John O'Sullivan many years ago, which changed the way I coach. He's the author of a book called Changing the Game, which promotes child-centered approach to youth sport. And in 2002, John talks about he received a phone call from a former school player that he had coached, that had gone on to graduate at college and had gone on to apply to medical school. And it went on, the conversation went like something like this. Coach, he said, I just wanted to let you know that I'm studying medical school exams and it's really hard. But every time I want to put down the books or I'm in the gym working out, I think of the coaching, or of you coaching the team and you and the picture telling us, is this the best you can do? You can do a bit more, you can do it a bit harder, and I keep going. Really, the coach said, you still remember that? I think of it every day, he said. Your words and your coaching really made a huge impact on me and many of my teammates. I just wanted to say thanks. The coach, John, said, I didn't know what to think. I was proud, but more, I was scared. I was scared because of every player like Patrick, a player with whom I had a great relationship. I could think of a few players that I didn't serve well. I wasn't always positive. I certainly wasn't far more concerned with results than I was now, and I made players feel. I reacted to a lot of players, and I know some quit because of me and the environment I created. I know some grew to hate the sport that I loved. So he goes on to say, he spoke about creating a positive, supportive and enjoyable environment. We spoke about putting the needs and values and priorities of players first and foremost. And we spoke about focusing on the development of the person and the athlete and not just the outcome of the game or the season. Yet for many years, I was not that coach. That eats me every day. So that one phone call changed the way he coached forever. It taught me that our influences as coaches is never neutral. It's taught me the tremendous impact of our words and actions on players. I thought that was really, really powerful, that a player rang up the coach to tell all the good things that the player thought the coach was doing, but in actual fact, it triggered a conscience in the coach about all the negative stuff that he possibly did as well. So our language is so important. Tony has another little poll there for us, and again, it's a little brain teaser for you. And what I'm trying to get you to do here is to try and come up with the missing word. It's the same word in all the sentences.
The missing word here, Gerard, very high here. Well, we have 10% for feedback, 0 for tell, 0 for highlight, and we have 90% for praise.
All right. Brilliant. So we have a brilliant audience on here tonight, and hopefully you give lots of praise to your players when you're out in the field. So you're right. Praise is the missing word in all of those. Well done. Give yourself a round of applause there. And for me, when we think praise, well, what does praise mean? Well, it means we're promoting a respect and instilling self-esteem. So you can see a play with words there. The mentor or the coach who's prepared the least gives out the most. We often see it on sidelines and at pitches. When you come down unprepared, you're a little bit frustrated because you don't know what's happening, and you end up then maybe giving out or shouting or whatever. So you should always try and respect and instill self-esteem. So we're still with the whole business of our language and words. So language, as we know, used skillfully, can be very powerful performance enhancer, and those words that drive the player to higher levels. So negatives, what we should try and do is try and avoid that if we can. So when we think about using language, sometimes the most natural form is positive. So too much positive or praise can also be a negative. So just being positive isn't enough. Well done, that's great, excellent. It's too general. It's sort of generalization, which provides no platform for improvement. So when we look at words, we can either have negative, we can have positive, or we can have productive. So what we try and do is have something that's positive, but has a step in making you better. So that's where the productive piece comes in. So it's no use if it's just positive, but it's too general. So we need to have, that was a good pass, John. Keep it going. So John knows that it was a good pass, and you're giving him some positive feedback. And the next time, try and follow through. So you're giving him some direction on the feedback or the praise that you're giving. So when we think of, so it's not only the words that is important. Also, we look at communication. We talk about the 3 V's of communication. So we've got the verbal, and that's what we say. So most words are spoken without consciousness, not even thinking about what we're saying. So you must master your words. Also, ask yourself, will my words lift the listener? Will it inspire? Will it motivate? And will it build self-esteem and willingness to take risks? The second V is the vocal. So that's our tone. So our tone tells the truth even when the words don't. Our tone communicates what we're feeling. And the final V is the visual. So that's your body. So your body is saying what you speak. And it's not only the words that are important. So we've got the verbal, the vocal, and the visual. The 3 V's of communication. So there's a lot for us to take on board. It's not just the words, it's how we present those words and the tone and our body language when we're articulating those words and communicating. Maybe for a minute in the chat, I'd like you maybe just to take a minute about some of the phrases that you use, maybe yourself, or you commonly hear along the sideline or at training. Some of the things that maybe you might have heard as a player, or you might still hear on the sideline, or as a parent, or as a coach, or that you might use yourself. And where nobody is judging, we just want you to say the stuff that normally comes out of your mouth during training. And it might be just one word, it could be a couple of words. So just fire them into the sideline, or fire them into the chat there, and I'll get Tony maybe to give us a few that come back as common phrases that we would hear on the sideline.
Here we go. Come on. There's one already, Gerard. Come on.
Come on.
Come on. Yeah. Yes. Super effort. Well done. Good effort. Get it on. Good. Get it on. Super effort. Well done. Good tackle. Keep it going. These is very good, positive coaches. Keep it going. Will you pass it? When I see kids getting too worked up, I say this is too many. Run. Get down on the ball. Open the gate for that person. Very good. Push it out for the last 5 minutes.
Keep trying. Okay, very good. So a lot of positives and a lot of common ones that we hear on the sideline. And I suppose unless we're really conscious of what we say, we'll continue saying them. And do they have any meaning, or can they be more meaningful if we were to think a little bit more about what we say? So here are some that I've come across, and you've articulated some of them there already for me, which is brilliant. So don't wait for the ball. Where's your man? Spread out. Don't foul. Well done. Keep it up. You're not marking up. Stick tight to your man or woman, whatever the case may be. For God's sake, I don't have open the gate now. That's a good one. I'll be adding to the list. And of course, as you can see in the picture, Jesus ref, will you give us any free? I think we had that down a couple of times. And if you look at the players in the background, they're imitating what the coach is saying. So a coach's attitude is reflected in his players. And that's also important to remember. But more important, these phrases, if we were able to reword these phrases to have a more positive outcome, we should try and do that. So these are some that I've heard and I've used over time. And the more that I think about them, the more I try and avoid this don't mindset. So anywhere where you see the word don't, try and avoid that. Because what you're doing is you're putting the seed into the player about what it is that you want them to do. And in actual fact, what you want players to do is the opposite. You want players to do, so instead of don't foul, is attack the ball or tackle the ball. Because sure as hell, if you say don't foul or no goals, that's exactly what happens. Because you're telling the player what to do. And our subconscious doesn't hear the word don't. So foul is what you're telling the player to do. So you have to be very conscious. Our brains take on board, and our subconscious draw to this very thing. So we have to be more skillful in the way we use our language. So rather than no goals, is block the ball, stop him coming in, get down on his foot. Think about what you want them to do as opposed to what the outcome might be if they come through. So again, it takes a lot of skill to think about what we say and maybe avoid the things that we don't want players to do and come up with the things that we want them to do in a positive way and something that means something. Like get stuck in. What does that actually mean? Somebody might take that as throw a dig at somebody. Somebody else might mean play hard, play within the rules. Get stuck in is too vague, it's too general a phrase to use. If you want something to do something, tell them what it is that you want them to do with a little bit of purpose. So that sort of covers our piece up as far as the language and the language that we use. So we're sort of halfway through at this point. So we're moving on now to mantras. And for me, what mantras, this brings us, I suppose, into the whole idea of cueing or sending out cues to your players. So these are sort of like verbal instructions that you want to provide, one or two cues to build awareness about what it is you want to do. So you have a limit on the necessary information to overload your coaching. So you only want to give one or two words, because during a game or during coaching, players are not really receptive to taking on lots of information because they're stressed as it is. So even if it's only one or two words, it might trigger them in order to do something that you want them to do. So these three words are likely to be a story which has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay, so think about that it's a little story, but it might be only three words, and it has a middle, or a beginning, a middle, and an end. So the purpose of the mantra is to enable the player to focus and then remember and finally achieve regularly the positive outcome of using the mantras. So for example, like good first touch. So that might be something you say to players rather than saying don't drop the ball. You might say good first touch. So what you're looking for is getting the players to focus on their touch of the ball and it being really sharp. Okay, so the emphasis on the quality of and the timing of the handling of the ball. Okay, so it's only language if players use it, but more importantly if the coach practices. So like if you only do it once in training and then you start shouting it at a match and you haven't hardwired it with your players throughout training, then it doesn't really work. So you have to use it in practice and you have to get the players to understand what it is that you're trying to get across. And a good way of doing it is to get players to buy into what it is that you're trying to get them to practice when they're on the field. So there are some of the mantras that I've used and that I've helped with the teams that I've worked with, and these are just some, and I just show them to you here. So here are just a couple, and I use little images because images are so powerful as well for players to remember. So the first one is 3-second rule. So it's a speed of thought. You want everything done very fast. And all I have is a little clock with number 1, 2, 3. And the hands are at number 1 or at number 12. And the second hand is number 3. So what you want is nobody can hold the ball for any more than 3 seconds. So again, it's a way of playing, but it's also the language that you want your players and the mantra that you want them to to use when they're playing with each other as well. Good first touch that we have, which is around quality handling on the run. So you want players to move, and especially for younger players, we're always asking them to, move with the ball, move with the ball. So this little mantra that you might use is that, the players have to be moving to receive, and they have to be moving to lay the ball off. So it's on the run. So it's around movement and possession, and then give and go. So this is another little mantra you could use, and it might be when you want to avoid being tackled. So you want to pass the ball, or you don't want players to take the ball into tackle, or as you said, where you've got the player that wants to open the gate and go out. This is a way maybe to build in that they're not able to run all over the field, that they have to pass and get it back again. So there are many more that I've come across, and I was fortunate enough to write a book with John Morrison a few years ago called Creative Game Sense, and in that book we came up with, I think it was over 50 or 60 little mantras that would be useful from a coaching perspective, that you could use. So so we're moving on to this notion about fixed and growth mindsets, and this American psychologist called Carol Dweck from Stanford University, she did a lot of research around this mindset idea, and she did it with groups of children. And the notion was that life is supposed to be full of challenges, and if you work hard, you can improve. And that's what her notion of this growth mindset. And the fixed mindset was that you believe that you're good and you don't have to work hard. And if you're bad, it doesn't matter. If you work hard, you can't change it. So how do you communicate to get a growth mindset to your players? So in this, you give feedback to players. So Dweck advises that if parents want to give children anything, they should give them the gift. The best thing that you can do to teach your children is to love challenges, be fascinated by mistakes, enjoy effort, and keep on learning. Praise effort instead of talent. And in her research, she took two groups of children and looked at a little task that they were doing, and she focused on the effort that some of the children found the challenge is difficult, and praised that. And as a result of praising their effort, they worked even harder. So what Dweck is saying is the world isn't divided into weak and strong, or success and failure, but rather learners and non-learners. So what we have to do as coaches is try and get our players to be learners, that they can always improve, that they can always get better. So you keep going for the ball, and you did super work. So now you've focused on their effort. Okay, so I think Tony might have a little poll for us next, and what we want you to do is maybe if you can see what type of praise is being rewarded here in those four little statements. Is that coming up there, Tony?
Hold on, give me a second. There's three statements, Gerard. There's three statements. Okay, the first one's been launched here now, coaches. So it should be up. It should be up for you there. You'll either be in the middle of the screen or in your text box. And the phrase is, "Wow, that's a really good score. You must be really good." So is that talent or effort? So tick the wee box. Is that talent or effort? And as I say, coaches, we've had a couple of great responses from the first couple of polls. So we'll see what's coming in here. We see, Gerard, I'll tell you now. Right, 89% talent and 11% effort.
Okay, very good. If you listen to the sentence again, wow, that was a great score. You must be very good. So what is being focused on is the talent as opposed to the effort. Okay.
I can go on to the next one, Gerard. Yes.
Yeah, fire away.
Next one coming up, coaches, same thing again. Okay, as you see it there, wow, you kept going for that ball and you got it back. Is that talent or is it effort? Press whichever one you think.
And you can't phone a friend.
And you can't phone a friend. No. Oh, 100% effort, Gerard.
Okay, very good. We must be doing something right. We must be getting the message across. So effort, and that's something that as coaches, sometimes you don't see that hard run or that block that creates an overlap that gets a score down the field. And they're the things that really we should be focusing in on, because that's, they're sometimes the things that we don't pick up on as coaches, is that rewarding the effort of a player as opposed to the talent of scoring or whatever. Okay, there's two more, Tony, if you want to put them up.
There's one more, Gerard.
One
more. I'm launching it here now, coaches. And it should be up on your screen now. You worked really hard to stop your man from scoring. Is that talent or is it effort? Press the wee box and submit, coaches, and we'll see your answers. And we have 97% effort, and it's 98% effort, believe it or not now, and 2% talent.
Okay, very good. So again, it's focusing on effort. And if we think about Dweck advises, if parents want to give their children a gift, the best thing they can do is teach their children to love challenges. So be fascinated by mistakes, enjoy effort, and keep on learning. So praise effort instead of talent. And that's something that you have to consciously think about when you're giving feedback to your players. That makes children work even harder, and it makes them resilient. And when we talk about this society now that we're in, maybe children aren't as resilient as they used to be. Well, maybe it's the messages that we're giving them. So maybe when we praise their effort and praise their hard work, they become even more resilient and work even harder for us. And that follows through in their life as well. Okay, thanks, Tony, for that. So much of what we do is about sending messages to our players, and in the picture here you can see the message that the coaches are sending, and the body language you can see from the players. The players are in unison with the coach. He is showing them connection by sitting around them and with them. So we need to be in the middle of them, connecting and sending the right messages, giving them instruction, setting expectations, generating feedback instead of telling them, we should be asking, and demonstrating using non-verbal and then affirming them. And you can see that they're so attentive to the coach. I think these are only 8-year-olds, but he's down at their level. They seem to be listening to every word that he's saying. I think it's a powerful picture of the coach connecting with his players. So when we think of Muhammad Ali, and I'm sure there's definitely a few older clients on the call tonight. I know Terence McWilliams was signing in. He definitely would remember Muhammad Ali and Tony Scullion and Brendan Harper, some of the older lemons on this call this evening. But when you think about Muhammad Ali, and this is the final thing I want to talk about tonight, is the whole idea of affirmations. And I suppose those of you who are old enough to remember Muhammad Ali, he nicknamed himself the greatest. Ali said, your body will do what your mind tells you to. So it's the repetition of affirmation that leads to belief. And once your beliefs become a deep conviction, things begin to happen. So look at some of the affirmations that Muhammad Ali had. I am the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was. And then if you look at the other one, so this is the one that sticks out in everybody's mind, I think, is float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. His hands can't hit what his eyes can't see. And that is just, can you see that picture of him moving around the ring, people trying to throw a punch at him, and he was so agile, and he's so, his reactions were just brilliant. He could really move, and he said that because he believed he could deliver on that. So what is an affirmation? So affirmations are things we say to ourselves to reassure ourselves that we're good at something. So things are stated as if you've achieved them. So think of Muhammad Ali, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. How powerful is that? Flying, fluttering, and then sting like a bee means you could hit so hard and not be hit back. So in order to improve, you must convince yourself that you can improve. So by saying these things, you can improve and become better at it. So when you put your affirmations, you should write, and this is maybe for lots of coaches that are listening tonight that maybe have children, that you might maybe talk to your players, or if you have a son or a daughter who's playing, you might talk to them about things that they're good at, or things that they might get better at. So you get them to think about this, and maybe very powerfully, if you have a photograph, and photographs are brilliant, especially if they're in action, maybe a picture of them doing something, the skill or scoring or tackling or whatever it happens to be, and you might write something positive about their affirmation, and then stick it up in their bedroom. And the whole idea of affirmations is that when you look at the picture and read, you become in your mind, you see yourself performing as that successful player. So you will be the player you think you are. So think positively. And here are some examples of some affirmations that I did with my own son. And these are just pictures that he has in his bedroom. And I'm very skillful. My touch and control are razor sharp. So you have to say it in this very descriptive language that you mean it. And here's some that have been in his room for a while. He's almost 18 now. I think that he might have been around 14 when or 13 when we did these. And he's looking at these every day. And it's not to be big-headed. It's to believe that you can be better at something, is what you're saying here. And you're putting that seed of you're putting that seed in your head that you will believe, a deep conviction that these things will happen for you. And here's another one. I was working with a player, and again, the picture showing the player in this position, performing. I work with burning desire and intensity to continually improve. So think about those words and how, if you were reading them or saw them on your wall with your image there, how that would make you feel. And the whole idea of this language and these affirmations is to make you believe and make you feel that you can do anything, and that you think positively, then you will believe that this will affect your performance. So that's what these affirmations are about. So I suppose in conclusion, tonight's session, we looked at the power of our words, the words we currently use. We looked at mantras, and then the final piece here was just around affirmations. And I would like maybe for you to set a little challenge for you to take some action as a result of listening to some of this stuff. Maybe you're doing it already, which would be fantastic. Maybe it's something new for you, or maybe it's something that you will continue to do. So what I'd like you to do is something I will start, a little card, write down, something I will start, something I will stop, and something I will continue. And hopefully that'll be your little action card from this evening. And I'll just finish with what I began with at the beginning. So my challenge to you is simple. You will only choose to focus on the skills that will fade. Will you watch your words well beyond the game? say what you mean what you say, and let your words and actions match. So thank you very much for listening, and there's some references at the end there just of some of the material that I looked at, and I know Tony is recording this, so you'll have some of that there, and there are just some contact details if anybody would like to ask anything further or get in contact. And I know Tony has a couple of questions there at the end as well, so thanks very much.
Absolutely brilliant, Gerard. Absolutely brilliant. We have a few questions when coaches was registering for the session tonight, and we also have a few have come in, Gerard. So I'm just gonna take a couple here, just a couple, and then we'll just move on. Right, here's one, Gerard. Would the advice and tips be similar or different for kids with ADHD? Should the language be different, and how could you adapt?
Okay, really good question, Tony. Thanks for that. Yeah, so I suppose the thing about, I suppose, for children with ADHD, we have to maybe be conscious of I suppose, the language first of all, but offer choices. So it's not just one choice that we're giving. Visual instructions and reminders are very, very helpful as well. And also one instruction or one instruction at a time. So maybe avoid giving lots of information, and also maybe model yourself what you want them to do, because a lot of us are visual learners. So showing them what it is that you want them to do, and be specific with your instructions. That has to be the key for everybody, I think. Be specific with your instructions. So you can't be vague about what it is that you want them to do, like go over there. Where is over there? So you have to be very clear, and also maybe pair them up with somebody when you want them to work. So that maybe that person can work and encourage them and allow them breaks to calm themselves as well. So you have to be calm. You have to offer them choices. You have to be visual in your instructions and your reminders, and you have to be one instruction at a time. I think that's sort of the key that I would say around adapting language for children with ADHD. Yeah.
Very good, Gerard. The next one here, what's the best way to pull the session back together after attention has lapsed? Kids start asking questions after question, chatting, cartwheels, etc. What's your advice on that?
Okay, well, if I see them cartwheeling, let them continue cartwheeling, because they're obviously having fun. So, but there is a time and place that you have to be able to bring it back to session. I think asking questions is brilliant, because they're being inquisitive. They want to know answers, but you have to be able to allow the coach to take control again. So I think it is important that you give them a timeout and say, well, look, we need to get back on task, and we need to get back to the work we're doing. I think it's good sometimes to give them a little break during the training. Especially if you're working with girls, and I'm working with my daughter's team and have done for a long number of years. They need to chat. By God, can they chat? They just love coming to the training session, and if you don't allow them those 2 or 3 minutes to catch up with their teammates or whatever, you're not going to have their full attention. So you have to allow them that little bit of time at the beginning, maybe in the middle as well. And sometimes you have to suspend our own expectations and allow them that time, because it is a social aspect. And even more so since of COVID, we should be building in that little extra 5 or 2 or 3 minutes where they get an opportunity to have a drink, but also to have a chat. But I think it's also good to have structure in your training that allows them to get back on task and to get working again in the thing. So I wouldn't be too concerned about the cartwheels. I think it's good. I wouldn't be too concerned about the questions. I think that's really positive that they're asking and they want to know something. But I think you do need to allow them a little bit of time for interaction with each other, and then you need to say, right, game on, we need to get back into task here, and away we go. And I think rather than having players maybe in formats of drills and where they're waiting, I really believe that training should be a ball between two or a ball each. And that way, I don't think you're going to have kids that are not on task or tuned out, because they're going to be doing stuff with the ball. They're not waiting time, or they're not hanging about. So the more equipment you can have, the better in your training.
Gerard, just before we ask the last couple there, can you put up that last slide of yours again there? It's sort of been, it's not on full PowerPoint, I think, just that last slide. Maybe that's put it on to full. Yeah. That's great. No, that's it now, I think. Oh no, you're just one too many now. Just back one, that's it. Right, a couple more here. Brendan has asked a question. Some coaches are unaware of how they are communicating. What suggestions would you have to make a coach aware of their style of communication?
That's a really good question, Brendan. I suppose as coaches, we're like the player. We're the eyes for the player. So we're in a position that we're able to see what the players can't see. So really, who's going to see what we can't see, which is the coach? So unless we become self-aware, I would recommend getting a friend, getting a mentor to actually give you some feedback on what it is that you're saying or how you're saying it. Somebody that you trust, somebody that you know will tell you as it is. And that will be a very powerful way for you to become self-aware in terms of what you do. I was lucky enough that I've had a couple of mentors in my career, people that you trust and people that you can ask for advice. And I think, there's lots of resources in clubs. It's just a matter of maybe asking people, would you come along to the session? Would you maybe tune in to see how it's going? Give me some feedback on how the session is going. Or even more powerful, if you could get somebody to video it, maybe video the session, and then maybe look back at it yourself and see what went well, what didn't go so well, and what would you do again differently. I think that's a very good model to use in terms of what you're doing. But certainly being aware of how you're saying it. So the 3 V's again, the verbal, the visual, and the vocal, as in the tone. So if you can think of those 3 things, but certainly if you could get somebody to observe or be a mentor with you, I think that would be a very good start in the whole idea of being self-reflective.
There's a few more coming on here, Gerard, and I don't want to, I'll do my best here. So we'll try to get through these. Mary has asked the question, any advice for getting the attention of young ones at nursery level? Any advice for getting attention of the wee ones at nursery level?
Of course, I think you have to be firm. That's the first thing. I think you can be firm without being cross or that, but certainly there needs to be rules, and there needs to be a time for the coach to be in charge. Certainly it helps if you're only with a small number. So if you're dealing in a nursery setting, because they're very young, I think 6, 7, 8 might be enough for any adult to be managing. So I certainly wouldn't be encouraging any bigger groups than that, because really at that age it's me and the ball. That's all they want, me and the ball. So giving them the ball allows them to explore, fun and play. And I think if they have opportunity to explore and have fun while not waiting around and standing around, you won't have any problem gaining their attention, I think. And if you what I always used to do when I was coaching my own kids in the nursery, I would make sure that the warm-up was as vigorous as hell, and I would drain them in the first couple of minutes, because then you will have their attention. If they're coming out of a car and they're full of beans, and this is the thing they're looking forward to all week long, and they want to be in the field full of action, well, if you're going to have them stand in the line waiting and giving them gibberish talk about what we're going to be doing, they're going to be up the walls. So the minute they come in the door, I would give them a ball and have them playing 1v1 or 2v2 or whatever it happens to be, or playing tag or chase, so that they would be absolutely exhausted by the time you wanted to actually try and teach, coach, communicate with them. That would be my tip to you anyway.
Right, Gerard. Another one here. When coaching, say, the under-9s in games, do you just let the kids play? Last year we played a team, and they had coaches coaching the defenders and forwards, telling them what to do the whole time. Is that the wrong approach at under-9 level?
Okay, so what I would say there is, sometimes people think that playing games is a game's approach to training, and while it is in theory, it's really not. Because what a game's approach to training is we play a game, and it doesn't have to be a match. It could be over the river, no man's land. It could be whatever type of a game, and you're trying to develop different aspects of the game or type of game, and you're using the game maybe to freeze and get players to think about what they're doing in the game. So that's what a games based approach. If a coach isn't actually communicating during the play, he's not really helping the players. He's just playing a match and keeping the score. And some of us do that. We just throw a ball and away we go. So when we think about the game is a perfect opportunity to reinforce good practice. So if somebody makes a great tackle, you might just go freeze. Did everybody see Tony's block? Did you see how he got down on the ball with his two hands right down on the toe? Now let's see if we can get another one of those during the game. Away we go. And that's it. It only has to be an interjection of 10 seconds, but that's coaching, where you're highlighting good practice, or maybe it might be something that they did that you want them to avoid doing. You might use that. I think when children play games, and what I mean by games, when you play against other teams or whatever, we should just let them at it. I think we should encourage them, of course. I think on a Tuesday and a Thursday, that's nights when we're coaching, and of course on the day of games, you might tell people, well, we want you to stay back this way, or we want you to move forward that way, because they're only learning the game. But I wouldn't give them too much in terms of overloading them, because they don't remember it. Remember, children, when they're in that environment, are not really they're not there to learn. Or sorry, they are there to learn, but if you're shouting and the pressure of the game, it's not really a learning environment. So it can be counterproductive.
Very good, Gerard.
So if you think about the mantras we said earlier, so think of the start, middle, and end. What could you say during a game? It could be something around maybe being close to your marker. It might be about the space that you want them to use on the pitch. So you think of the mantra that you might use, rather than all this language that doesn't make sense to them.
Good, very good, Gerard. That question was asked by Noel. Dermot has asked one here. What's the best way to manage the exceptional player within a group? Weaker players get praise and encouragement for doing something that comes more naturally to the stronger player. Can this have a negative impact on him or her? This is an exceptional player that's getting very little credit, he's asking.
That's a really good question. And I suppose sometimes as parents, when we're coaching and our children are on the team, I know for a fact when I was coaching my son's team, he would probably be the last to get the praise, because you didn't want to be biased by giving him, even though he was very talented and put in a lot of effort and worked really hard. And they're the things that I focused in on. I focused in on the effort. I focused in the fact that he would bring other people into the game and became, a team player. So you can praise the players for other things that you see, when they pass to somebody else, when they bring others into play. That they're real team qualities that you want, and you should highlight them. If it's your own son or daughter, sometimes you might be more reluctant, maybe not to give them the same amount of praise. So maybe one of the other mentors, you might make sure that one of the other mentors that isn't a parent might say something, so that you're not leaving them out, because certainly we all like to hear what we're doing good, and I think we need to be balanced in how we give our praise, that it's not too much in one way and too little in another. So I remember listening to something that Liam Sheedy, the Tipperary coach, was talking about the first time that he took Tipperary, and he had a performance coach with him, and the feedback he got from the players was that they didn't really know where they stood with him, because he never really spoke to them. And he thought he was doing a fantastic job. He thought he was going to training every night and we're coaching, and he was telling them this and telling them that. And he thought, like, my God, what's wrong? But the coach, or the performance coach, was able to tell him that the players didn't feel that he knew them. So his job for the next 6 months was that every night at training, he would go and speak to 3 different players and ask them how they were getting on. Not about football or hurling in this case, but just ask them, well, how was school, college, work, or whatever? Because that connection uh, that some of the players felt wasn't there, and he built that up over the courses of the year as he was coaching. So that's something that you could do as well. That, they're coming to the field as people, as children, and players secondly. So find out something about them that you can connect with them. And I think that's important as well for their self-esteem and for connection with them as a coach.
Okay, one more question, and then there's a comment here to finish. One more question, Michael here. Within the games versus drills scenario, would you use the game as a carrot to get the drills been done better? Like, say we play a game, if you do the drills and skills better, would you use that as a carrot?
Yeah, you have to use some carrot at times. Yeah, I think it's important to acquire the skills. Um, I think there's a place for drills, as I think there's a place for games. If you ask children what do they want to play, they want to play the game. So why don't you give them the game at the beginning? Why don't you play the game at the beginning and say, okay, here we go, let's play the match, 4v4, whatever, a couple of 4v4s. And then after 6 or 7 minutes, you might stop and you might go into the routines. Now they've had the experience of the game, and that's what they want, and you've given them that. Now they might appreciate the practice more because you've given them a game, rather than keeping it to the very end. Because what happens is we keep the game to the end, and we've only got 3 minutes at the end to do the game. They feel hard done by at times. So start with the game, then go into your drill or practice work, and go back to the game. And that way, I'm sure, will have a positive effect in terms of them coming early to training, but listening more importantly when you're practicing your skills.
Brilliant, Gerard. Absolutely brilliant. And I'm going to give you this comment from David to finish tonight here. And the comment from David was, great session. I like the messages and the advice. A lot of it is similar to the kind of messages I've heard from Mackie Birdman on YouTube, a New York basketball coach. He founded Steady Buckets to help coach the youth of Brooklyn and improve the kids' self-esteem. It's good to hear you saying similar things and relating it to our sport. Thank you. So that's a very nice comment. So, Gerard, on behalf of the coaches and everybody attending tonight, we had almost 300 coaches who registered for this session tonight. We would like to thank you, Gerard, for a tremendous session. And it was something I would imagine the coaches. I see comments coming in here, Gerard, thanking you big time. So it does not surprise me. So, Gerard, thank you very much, and to the coaches, good luck in your coaching in weeks, months, and years ahead. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you.